Hey there, you may remember from my previous video this 8Bitdo gamepad that had some kind of issues with the analog stick. So it is generally a nice gamepad already with a clamp for your phone or tablet, but I decided to replace this with something a little bit more expensive. So I got this, and first of all I want to guide you a little bit through the 8Bitdo gamepad, or 8Bitdo, whatever, SF30 Pro, and this is the packaging it came in. So we have a nice package. I decided to also buy a clamp, but here is the box. I already opened it before but sealed it back again. Here is the clamp. We will take a look at the clamp, the smartphone clamp, a little bit later on. So it has a USB-C support as opposed to this one, but when I will be doing this comparison, please keep in mind that this is 3 times as expensive. So this was roughly $40 and this one is let's say 12, 15, something like that. So it has a Bluetooth support, it has a USB support, so it also can act like a gamepad for your PC. It has a motion control, which this one didn't have, and rumble. So it claims that it works well with Switch, Windows, Android, macOS, and Steam. A little bit about this later on. I cannot guess with everything. We will be taking a look at the PC side of things. Unfortunately, I don't have a Switch or macOS to tell you more. It doesn't have on Android, as far as I tested, those functions, the rumble and the motion controls. So if you open the box, here is a bit of plastic, and here is the gamepad itself. It had a bit of the foil on the buttons over here, so we can remove this. It has concave analog sticks as opposed to those one. I think that's concave. Very pleasant. A bit of rubber at the edges. So we'll take a look at the gamepad. Let me finish with the box itself. There is huge instructions, and it explains it pretty decent English and other languages. All details about this gamepad. So that's pretty good. I also noticed that they went with a little bit better quality paper, but yeah, that's just, you know, it's fine, whatever. Here's the USB-C cable. It has a custom, a little bit custom lead, because it has their 8Bitdo logo over here, and also the text on here. On the C side, it is exactly the same USB cable as any other one. So and there is this, nothing else. So here's the gamepad, and also there is a clamp for your smartphone. So as you can see here, let me unbox this too. So if you take it from the box, yeah, I think I have to rip this apart to open it. So let me remove the clamp itself. So we have 2 parts over here. This one goes on your gamepad. So like so, it clips on. There is a place so you can push the pair button. I'm not sure what this do. It doesn't say anything here. And apart from that, what we have here, the clamp goes like so. So it just latches in. You can now insert your phone like this. So let me stretch this out. It's not as robust as this clamp that would work with smaller tablets, but it should work with most of the phones. But keep in mind that you cannot have buttons on here. So let me show you my BlackBerry. It will be problematic here because there is an additional button exactly at the middle, and that could cause some issues. So I will be using probably mostly this gamepad for PC stuff, maybe PS3 probably, or other consoles. It should work with all devices that has Bluetooth or USB support. So, but you know, you don't have access here anymore to the USB-C connections. You still have access to those LEDs, and those are explained pretty well in the manual. So if you go through this, it's fairly decently explained how does it exactly work. So let me unclip this without breaking it. So let's see how I should go around this, because it shows how you should assemble this. But okay, so something like this. Well, let me put this, because obviously they didn't want you to close this on itself. Let me show you another clip that is for the Bluetooth gamepad. Another clip I have. That's another gamepad that had a clip built in, so it goes around here, and we will be able to verify how well it works with official Sony ones. So that's something that should resemble the basically a DualShock controller. It doesn't matter from which generation, but probably DualShock 3, because it has those triggers. So that it works exactly the same way, but I think it has a better the quality of the rubbers here are a lot better, because those come off often if I use this. And but this one closes on the pad itself, so you can theoretically close the phone, the screen of the phone. You cannot do this with 8Bitdo. Now let's do a little bit of comparison of actual how this controller feels. I decided to compare it to the DualShock 3, because that's the controller, the only official one that I have in the best shape. So as you can see, the clamp works just as well as on the knockoff one. Let's talk about D-pad. So D-pad is really comfortable on the 8Bitdo. This Sony has obviously a very hard to press, a little bit hard to press D-pad that has a separate buttons, but this reminds me the D-pad I had on the Nintendo DS. It's a very comfortable D-pad, but it's a lot bigger than on the DS one. The start select buttons, well, the Sony still had back then the start select just like on the VCR remote. So yeah, if you had those rubberized buttons on the remote, you know what I mean exactly, and it's exactly the same thing. While here it's very, you know exactly if it's pressed. Fortunately, you don't use this very often. As for the other buttons, well, if you prefer a low travel, you don't get this here. They are a little bit harder to press, as you can hear, as compared to this one, and the travel is quite a bit different on both of those. So if you prefer a delicate buttons, those are a little bit harder. Maybe it takes a while for them to start functioning normally. This controller has only around I don't know, 200-250 hours of use, so not a lot. So in comparison to the iPego one, they are very soft, those on the iPeg. So if you prefer this soft style, you won't get anything like it. They are very you will be able to feel exactly when it's present or when it isn't, while those you can almost press it by accident. So this is just in between. So it depends for what you're exactly looking for. The analog sticks are very pleasant. They are quite precise. I will show you the comparison on the PC. And well, if you prefer the very delicate travel of the L3 and R3 buttons, it's a bit, again, they are kind of hard to press. So you will only press them if you really want to. It's similar to the analog buttons on this controller, but it basically works more like on those knockoff controllers. So those cheaper ones, there is quite a bit of click. It's not as hard as here, but you will exactly be pressing the sticks in if you want to. Sometimes I press those by accident on the Sony ones. Again, it depends. So about the triggers now, the flat design of the 8Bitdo basically means that you don't have a lot of space here. So if you hold your hands like so, what you will notice instantly that this controller is very small, and if you think it's smaller than the actual Super NES controller, let me show you a cheap comparison to this one. This is a cheap USB rebuild of the original one with exactly the same location of the buttons. The quality is completely off, but the sizes of the buttons and so on, they got them perfectly right. So what you will notice, the buttons over here were being moved a little bit up. Same goes for the D-pad, because they wanted to make space for those for those analog sticks. Regarding the L and R button, well, basically this means because it has the R and R2, and those are actually the triggers, because you should be able to see they are moving like a triggers, and this is like a normal button, so it doesn't matter where you press those. If you prefer to press those here or here, or use it like so, it should be still okay. It's very comfortable in this matter, but it's not as comfortable as those buttons that were a lot bigger. As you can see, the size is almost identical between those two, and they have exactly the same size of the main shape. If I just put it underneath, you will be able to see this. This is a knockoff. Let's not talk about the quality here. This is just for the size comparison. So if you have a very large hands, you probably would prefer something like this or Xbox controller. Don't go with something like a small like so, because as you can see, I have a medium, maybe a little bit smaller hands than medium. Well, basically when I buy gloves, I usually look for size 7. I'm not sure how that's how that's exactly the same around the world. If I go to some stores that are selling Chinese stuff, the size gets bigger basically, but so normally the European 7 size of gloves are not that big, whereas the DualShock is very comfortable. And the Xbox controller is also comfortable. This is a little bit on the small side, so that may be a problem if you're looking for a big comfortable controller. If you're used to the SNES controller, that's really great, because the size is exactly the same. I think that's a good idea that they move the D-pad and buttons up, because it's a better position for your hands like this than compared to this one, because it was on the wide side. You could still play like so, but the upper position is actually better, and also the thumbs go on the lower side. What else? Well, the controller in general, the build quality is very pleasant. It's a little bit heavier than any kind of normal controller, but it's comparable to any kind of official ones. So if you don't like light controller, this is not this. Apart from those face buttons and the analog sticks and the triggers over here, there is a sync button over here that you would use according to instructions. Please always refer to the manual. It's really hard for me to recommend some kind of controllers or tell if it will work with the newest Android or a specific device. If you ask in the comments, please understand that, well, I'm not an expert. I don't manufacture this. So there are 2 additional buttons over here. This is for turbo mostly. This one is also the specific 8Bitdo button, but it can be mapped as an additional button. So if you need some kind of, I don't know, save state, for example, or rewind button, where all other buttons are mapped. That's a really good idea. To put a bit of info on this comparison, this gamepad cost around $8-9, something like that, and it is a USB one. So even though it's wireless, it doesn't work with Bluetooth. Those two are Bluetooth ones, and this is currently around $15 US dollars, of course, and this one is around 35 to 40 currently, if 35 if you found a discount. I will be using this this tablet. It's a standard Windows 10 tablet, and to open the built-in utility to check the be it either Bluetooth, USB or whatever, basically all controllers connected to your PC, you still go to the start menu, start typing in USB, and then you can select set up USB game controllers. As you can see here, this little window was accessible from Windows 95, so we have this for, I guess, 25 years now. And if you, for example, this one is connected right now, you can just go to properties here and examine what is the travel on the analog sticks, and also how the all other buttons work on your controller. So for this one, I have a very specific driver installed. So for example, if you take a look, please keep in mind that it's almost instant, but there may be some lag. I started to push the analog sticks at the same time, and this is basically everything for the right one, as you can see here. So there is a very small travel and a lot of dead zone. So this is at the top, and I can still push it a lot and nothing happens. And again, and same I think goes, yeah, as you can see here for the left, and this is completely top on the screen, and I still can push it a lot. Similarly for the bottom ones, but for the down, it's almost digital, as you can see. So it's a good idea to test your gamepad. There is a much better calibration for the sides from what I can see, because there is quite a bit more travel as compared here. So let me now open the similar window for the 8Bitdo and for the iPega. Okay, as you can see, all three wireless gamepads are paired now. Let's leave the USB one and start with iPega one, so I can show you what was the main complaint about it from people, from what I heard, and I kind of agree. It's a little bit worse on Android than what I've seen here, but it is pretty bad. So the buttons work pretty well and so on. So this is a standard stuff. You shouldn't be worried about the button not working, as you can see here. But the main problem on the iPega was the analog sticks. So this one is is over here. So if I just go gently up, nothing starts, and it's a bit better. And the end of the travel is exactly the end of the display over here. And if I go down, is similar. But the problem begins when I go and try to go in, around in the different directions. There is basically a square field. I cannot go to the corner completely. Similar stuff happens on the other analog sticks, because it does. It's basically what it takes. It's still a whole analog stick, but it understands it as two throttles, one axis and the other axis. This time I can go to the corners. It can be it can be on complete full rotations, let's say, on the one side, and completely minimal on others. But if you start with the travel and go up, there's a little bit of dead zone. It works quite better than the left analog stick, which is somehow worse in my opinion. I mean, you would be normally, well, this is normally for looking around, so it should be more precise, and this is usually for moving in the games. But at the same time, I would prefer both of those sticks to work similarly well. Maybe they had some problems in testing, so they decided to make this almost digital, like the let's say point of view had over here. So well, I'm not exactly that fond of especially this part, and also what I didn't said about this, I had to add a bit of sticky tape to cover those lights over here. The buttons still are shining a little bit if you play this during the night. It may be a little bit annoying. Fortunately, the 8Bitdo doesn't have this problem. It has a very dim LED, so this is actually only for the pairing stuff. So let me switch to this one, and it supports different modes. If I remember correctly, I selected, there is a small cheat sheet over here. I selected the input mode. It also supports the X input. It depends on the game, so it has a better compatibility. Again, the manual describes this in a better manner, so you can understand this better. But if you take a look at the readings over here, if I go just gently, it already there is a little bit of movement, and it ends exactly at the end of travel of the stick itself, so there is almost no dead zone. So if you prefer to have a dead zone, you won't like this gamepad. Let me show you again on the left that there is, when the travel starts, it already goes to the, yeah, as you can see here. But again, in the corners, it's not perfect, so you cannot go to completely to one corner. It's a lot better than this one. Unfortunately, I can't show you both at once. And the right analog stick is almost exactly the same. I don't see any difference. I don't have this nice view like on this one, but and again, that it cannot go completely to the corner. So I guess it works exactly the same way as the left one. The other buttons work very well. The triggers aren't analog, so do not expect this. Also, you can map this button, as you can see. Unfortunately, you cannot map the start button. In this connection mode, the fourth button is disabled, so you have this is 2, this is 1, this is 3, and those are 4 and 5. If I remember correctly, one of them were disabled, so if this 4 and 5, then the 6 is disabled basically, because those two are different buttons again. Before we start with the USB cord, let me show you the X input type of connection. As you notice here, 2 buttons disappeared, but the back buttons, the trigger ones, appeared as a throttle. So it may be useful for the driving games if you need to map one axis to the acceleration and deceleration thing. I just also discovered that if you pair this as a switch controller over Bluetooth, so go through all the process according to the manual, you can use those buttons as separate buttons, and they don't have the turbo functionality that, you know, could throw you off. So it can be, I don't know, save and load, something like that. And all other buttons also work without any problems. So that's actually really good. I'm really impressed. I tested all the possibilities of connecting this controller to a standard Windows. So I couldn't access the accelerometer. It may be exclusive to the Switch. It may require additional drivers or something like that. I was looking on their website. There was nothing obvious, or presumably it may be supported by the game, but not supported by the the standard software itself, because I was expecting the additional accesses over here. And this is an example of the Mac OS mode. where the let me make this window active, where the triggers basically work as an additional axis, but they do not support any kind of analog control. So those two buttons, as you can see here. And that's basically all, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. It is very nice and very pleasant gamepad, so I can recommend this, but especially considering the great analog sticks over here. Only on pair I could say that are those from the actually original Sony ones. I'm not sure how well does does other stuff works, like accelerometers and so on the Switch, but presumably it should be fine. I rarely use games like that, so it's not a big deal for me. All I wanted was a controller with the vibration function, so it is really great, especially for those older games. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.